So, do you guys think hard work is still like required these days? And I know this is a very first world Western, question and topic to touch on, but I really want to know, do y'all think hard work, being known as a hard worker, is now like actually a compliment? Especially, I don't want to minimize this, but especially us Black Americans, we know how hard we push the stuff. Other demographics work hard too. We got stereotypes about, I'm part Jamaican. I've been heard the Jamaican stereotype, got 2, 3 jobs, all that stuff. I done been heard it. I lived up to it. It's whatever. It's not limited to us. But I want to know, especially for us, do you guys think being known as a hard worker is really a good thing? Is it really beneficial? And is it really that much of a compliment that we used to try to frame it as growing up? Because for me, that time has passed. So, as you guys see, I'm in a new space and I finally moved out of Dallas. I lived in Dallas, West Dallas, particularly for the last 4 years. I got there in early 2020, February of 2020, and I just left last week. But as I was moving, I somewhat, I guess you say, reconnected or had a quick conversation with an old homeboy from college who is also here on the East Coast. He's also in the tech realm. He's in cybersecurity, works for a pretty good and big consulting firm, working with government clients. So he does very well. I told him about how when I left Dallas, I originally went to California, where I'm from. So I took a quick trip back home, see my nephew for his birthday and my best friends. And then I came to the East Coast. So my homeboy and I were talking about that. And I told him about my experience with Frontier. I'm like, these people are rude as heck. And he said he took a flight on Spirit, I believe, one time. And he was overhearing a couple of the flight attendants, I think it was like 2 or 3 ladies, talking about one girl was telling another girl to basically act her wage. I guess one of the girls was about to do some work or do a little more work than I guess they're supposed to. And another one of the flight attendants told the girl to act her wage, basically saying like, hey girl, you're not getting paid enough to do XYZ, right? And my homeboy was like, well, that's not how it goes. I mean, one, you have to like market the brand of the company, but two, that's also how you get promotions. Like you gotta do whatever you gotta do, work hard and this and that, and that's how you get promotion. This is where my thought to write this script and to record this video came into play. I sent 2 voice messages to my homeboy, explaining to him why personally I no longer am a subscriber of work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, like for eternity. I no longer subscribe to that. Working hard in itself is fine. Working hard for the end goal of moving up the hierarchy or moving up the ladder in the organization that you work for, I no longer subscribe to it because my life experience has not shown that that's actually a thing. I am in my late 20s. I have never experienced a promotion a single time in my life, but multiple times throughout my life, I have been the go-to person or a go-to person in a workspace where to the point where customers or other clients will be like, they might come to me and start talking to me and yelling at me crazy. I'm like, oh, yes, sir. I mean, whatever. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm afraid I don't have the ability to do X, Y, Z, but I do have the ability to, let my manager know or to reach out to somebody and get the information, blah, blah, blah. And a decent amount of the time throughout my years, people will be like, oh, wait, you're not the manager? You're not the one in charge? The way you're running these things and the way you're doing I'm thinking you're the one in charge. And you're telling me this person's the manager? I thought they had to listen to you. I'm like, no, they're the manager. I just work here. Many people, I'm not trying to my own horn here, but it's pretty much a known concept at this point that people who actually tend to be good at their jobs, who are agreeable, who keep their head down, they're quiet, they go to work, do what the heck they need to do, even if they hate it, and go home. Those people who become like actual big and useful resources in the workspace usually do not get rewarded with opportunity to move up vertically in the organization. They usually get stuck, pinned to where they are at, but they get extra work. And then if a promotion does happen or some other lateral opportunity does come around, it's usually one of the laziest people around that ends up getting the opportunity, right? Who don't do their job. They may even be in trouble fairly often, not consistently to a point of getting fired, but they probably get a stern talking to fairly often, but somehow they manage to move up. Or even if they don't get necessarily in trouble, they also don't necessarily do anything super right to the point where like it shines a light on them and be like, oh, this guy's actually, good at what he does to a degree. Like they may be neutral at best. They're not doing terrible, but they're not doing great either. But the people who tend to consistently do great and are dependable, I'm talking like, and again, I'm saying this from my experience, I'm talking like if you were to take 2-3 days off or a week off for vacation after you've worked hard for 6+ months. There are people that I've heard this. My best friend apparently got hit with this a couple weeks ago. Everyone else at her job is so trash that if she was to leave, because everyone depends on her and she's actually good at what she does, for some reason that would prompt management to threaten her job. What sense does it make to threaten the job of the one person that consistently does better than people who have even been there longer than them, and say, hey, if you take that job, you take those few days off, you may not have a job to come back to. Okay, cool. So you think it's smart to get rid of the only person or one of maybe two people out of however many employees you got that is actually good at what they do, and you depend on them a lot because you know everyone else is trash, and you're saying if they take a break to keep their mental and like keep their mental health intact, they may not have a job to come back to, and you're going to leave your own hands full with the people that can't do the job in the first place? Please tell me how that makes sense. Please. That does not make sense to me. I know a lot of people like to throw idle threats, but this is something I've heard consistently since high school, if not before. People who are actually good at their jobs are also, they tend to be trapped on a tightrope of, I'm going to choose myself or I'm going to choose the company. I choose the company, I keep a job, keep a paycheck, but now my health, mentally, physically, or otherwise, is going to deteriorate. Maybe I won't be able to go see a family member that fell ill or maybe even passed away, something like that. And the one time you choose you, now your whole lifeline, your whole earnings and all that stuff is either gone or is questionable at best. So you don't know if you're gone for an extra 2 or 3 days to do something that's important, that you'll have a job to come back to. And again, there are managers who think it's smart to get rid of one or two people who actually know what they're doing. That makes the manager's job in life a little bit easier, just to keep the people that they also know can't do the job right to save their life, that bring constant drama, that also will not elevate, or even they do elevate, but that's also the whole point. You want to threaten and potentially actually fire and get rid of the person actually good at their job, but keep the people that you as a manager know they're not good at their job. They complain a lot. They complain about every little thing. They're terrible at what they do. They may not even actually do anything, but you'll never threaten their job. They take vacations, probably longer ones than the one that works hard all the time. You never threaten their job. Those type of situations can happen because the manager already know, if anything, you taking a week-long vacation is my vacation because you're that bad at the job. Here's my whole thing and why I'm opening this questioning up to y'all, because this is not just a simple, complain and moan thing. Like, this is something cultural. This is something that, especially again, this honestly goes between different ethnic groups, we are raised with. So when we eventually get into a space of consistently working hard and killing ourselves to show up, show out, and do all this other stuff, but no other opportunities come, even if you're proactive, even if you do go to management and be like, hey, I heard there's an opening for this position. I've been in this position for a year and a half. I want to move up. What do I have to do? Whatever you do. Because a lot of people like to say closed mouths get fed. I've also seen situations where people that have tried to pursue an opportunity to move up, get more money, take care of themselves. If they have a family, try to take care of their family, make that situation better. Where the case is, they're being proactive. They do all the right things, not just working right. They actually talk, they communicate. Relationship with managers are good. They've never gotten to a bad argument, whatever. But the one time someone actually says, I have my eyes on this position, this department of the company, this team, this function, this dollar amount, whatever it is, what do I need to do to get in this spot? They get shut down very often. They get stonewalled. And it doesn't even just happen at retail jobs or low-level menial jobs. My same homeboy that I'm referring to, again, he works in cybersecurity. He does cybersecurity work for a tech firm or a consulting firm, one of the biggest ones in the world. And that same firm just so happens to hire a whole lot of people, not just from my school and my old business program, but a whole lot of people from HBCUs in general, right? So I noticed that a lot of people tend to stay with some of these bigger technical consulting firms for a very long time. And I'm thinking everything is nice and copacetic there. But what he opened up to me about was, it's true that people get paid well, the work is good, you travel a lot, you can get some good experiences through the work and through the company. But what does lead a good amount of people to leave that organization despite those benefits is that they will proactively try to talk to someone about getting promoted and move over to a next position. Because I noticed in these consulting firms, people stay in the same position anywhere from 3 to 5 years at a time. In my personal opinion, especially if you're in your early career sector, you shouldn't be in the same job title and same job position for longer than 2 years at the absolute max. So anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and they try to actually get promoted. He says it's very common for management to stonewall them. And now they've been doing the same job for 5 years. Unless you're like director, senior, something, there's very little reason you should stay in a low or even mid-level position longer than 2 years. If you're mid-level, I'll give you 3 at most. But like 4 or 5, no. At that point, you need to start looking outside, and that's what a lot of people end up doing, and then they pivot from one company to another. My point being that because a lot of people like to use I don't want to say excuse, but the like clapback, whatever the response, that people are not proactive when it comes to seeking out these opportunities. There are people who seek out opportunities when they have been in the position for a while, they've mastered it, they're a resource that everyone comes to about this and that, all that stuff. They've been doing it for 2, absolutely no more than 3 years. And when they actually speak up and say, hey, I have my eye on this position long term. I know there's maybe some other stuff in between, but what do you recommend I do to move closer, to that position over time? And they just get stonewalled. They get stonewalled. Not every single time, but very often. They get stonewalled. So that's where I'm like, okay, we have to work hard. We have to. You have to. You have to work hard no matter where you go in this world, right? My issue is the mindset that people have of the nonstop hustle and bustle. Don't be picky about what opportunities and jobs you entertain and all that stuff. Is the older I get and the more experience I have when it comes to my professional stuff, the more just fed up I am with that, because it's not working. It's very old fashioned, it's very outdated, very antiquated, but more than anything, it's not working. We are well past the mindset of just get in, bust your behind, and get out. And that's it. And just rinse and repeat, and you will move up gradually. No, that's not an automatic thing. There's more of a game here that we have to be willing to play, and that we have to learn to understand to play. But it seems like there are certain individuals that's just like, it's too black and white. Their mentality towards it. And I just don't care for that. There are certain biases and other things that can come into play, favoritism, whatever you want to bring up. The whole point being, I think we need to learn to understand how to work hard and to apply our energy to something that actually matters. But don't put 110% into everything. And I know how bad that sounds, but don't put 110% into everything. Like I said, I just moved from Dallas back to the East Coast for the first time in over 4 years, right? I was busting my behind my entire time in Dallas. If you was to ask me, hey, how you like Dallas? Did you hate it? Did you love it? What'd you do? I can't tell you, because I was working the whole time. Whether I got my master's, I was working anywhere from 2-3 jobs at a time. Then I started doing this, so I had to make time for this. In addition to just taking care of my own self physically and trying to work out and establish good habits, all this other stuff, right? Just because it doesn't produce a dollar does not mean it's not take energy, effort, and hard work. So by the time I left Dallas, I had a routine that I was on for like years, and I had to adapt depending on what jobs I had and how many I had. But if I had one job that paid $15 an hour and ran me ragged and had me feeling like a zombie by the end of every day, and then I have to go to my other job basically right after the fact, or maybe a couple times a week, I'm not honestly going to put in more effort than I need to. I'm still going to do what it takes to do the job, but I'm not going to do too much extra. Because now you're at a point where if you have anywhere from 2 to 3 jobs, and yes, there are people these days getting 3 jobs is getting even more common. But if you have anywhere from 2 to 3 jobs, at minimum, one of them's full-time. And it's a hustle and bustle, it's fast, it's hard, all that. I'm not just saying don't put 110% effort into everything just to appease the lazy millennial, Gen Z mindset, whatever. No, I can tell you a personal experience, it literally does not work. If you do not know when to slow down, or do not have the ability, or simply do not have the mindset to choose when to slow down for your own interests, physically and mentally, your body will make the decision for you. I've never told this. I didn't plan on telling this story on YouTube, but I'm gonna tell it real quick. So prior to me leaving here on the East Coast, before I moved to Dallas, I did unarmed security for 2 different companies. One of them, we're not gonna touch on that. The second one I ended up going to was pretty cool. Being unarmed security, at least for this company, was chill. It was real hard to screw things up. I mean, I did, but it was real hard. The shifts were fairly long. Like on average, I would say I did mostly 12-hour shifts for that security company, right? There were a couple times, one particular time, where I did 20-hour shift by covering for somebody else. Again, not the craziest thing, hustle and bustle, all that stuff. but it's still time. I still gotta walk around, still gotta check the checklist, still gotta pay attention to who's coming in the property and out the property, all this stuff, right? Eventually, between the 12-hour shifts and then the couple 20 hours, but this particular 20-hour shift, which was overnight, obviously, finally got off work, came home, stopped by Chick-fil-A, get something to eat, came home, ate it, put on some anime, and I crashed. I wake up to my phone ringing from my job, and a guy from dispatch is calling me saying, "Hey, when do you plan on showing up to the site?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I basically just got off work. I've been home maybe a few hours. You just woke me up out of my sleep. I don't have to go back until this evening for another 12-hour shift." That's when I looked at my phone, looked at the time on my phone, and it said it was like 6:30 in the evening. I felt like I had just passed out at like 7 a.m. that morning. It it literally felt like no time passed at all. Maybe a few hours at best. The only thing I could keep saying was, "What the," you know what I'm saying? That's all I could keep saying. Luckily, bro from dispatch had my back. He was like, "Hey, bro, can you get there by 7?" And nobody's even got enough. Absolutely, we made it happen. Never got a call about it, nothing. After all these years, nothing. Right? My point being, hard work is fine, but hard work, just like anything else, too much of a good thing can be detrimental to you. And I experienced that firsthand. I even experienced that when I was living by myself a few times. I experienced a version of that when I was in college where my body started acting up. I'm not gonna go into detail, but my body started acting up, right? Between stress, hard work, and all this other stuff. So when I say, or at least I'm shifting to a mindset of, do we really need to work hard anymore? What I'm really trying to get at is, do we need to apply the concept of hard work to everything that we do? Again, if you have 2 to 3 jobs at a time, one of them's full time, and that's the one that runs you the most ragged, maybe that's the one you should put most of your effort in. But whatever the other 2 side hustles or part-time jobs that you have, you need to regulate it. Don't be completely doing nothing. You still need that money. That's why you got the job. But regulate the amount of energy and effort you put into something. And whenever something that is supposed to be small, something that's not supposed to require as much effort and energy, starts to demand like full-time effort and energy, but you're not getting paid like that, you don't even do that type of work for them, all that stuff, you might want to consider moving somewhere else that is easier for you to maintain. Because it's not just a matter of money and all this other stuff. And I know for a lot of people in this world, especially in the East, they don't have a choice. They got to take what they can get. But I'm just going to leverage my, what's the word? I guess privilege. I guess I'm going to leverage my Western world privilege here and say, we have the ability to decide what we want to entertain, or at least more of the ability. I know the economy kind of makes things a little wonky right now, but we have more of an ability to be like, okay, I'm putting most of my effort, all my effort into this main hustle. I got a second full-time job. I'll put in effort into this one as well too. But let's say if you get a side thing, you're doing this or something else, or you just get another part-time job. Do what it takes to fulfill the job and keep your nose clean and not be in trouble, but don't put in full-time effort into something that's only meant to be part-time. You know, that's my whole thing. And if you don't know how to distinguish between the two, unless you're stronger than me, you most likely are going to have health issues at various points in your life. And you're eventually going to have to figure that out and be like, okay, I want to work. I want to bust myself up, bust my behind. I want to climb up. I want to elevate. Not just in a company. Maybe I want to do my own thing, whatever. I'm willing to work. How do I work efficiently and smart enough in a way that will not I'm not harming myself while trying to get where I'm trying to go? That's my whole thing. And frankly, I might make another video attacking the hustle and bustle mindset and culture that we've cultivated and have maintained, primarily us. So maybe that'll be another video. Because I do believe that's a business concept. Again, this channel is meant to talk about tech concepts, business concepts, and maybe some other stuff, while using nerd stuff, anime, comic books, and whatever to make these concepts more relatable, right? Where it applies. I'm not doing that every episode, obviously, but where it applies. Yeah, man. I think that might be something I'll talk about more at length, but that's just my personal story. And I want to open the floor to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you think we have finally hit a point where we truly need to reevaluate, if you have the ability to? I know everyone doesn't have the same opportunities and stuff, but if we as a group, as a demographic, or even you as an individual in your own household, do you think it's time to reevaluate the constant nonstop hustle and bustle, work hard, even if your bones hurt mindset? Or should we change our mindset to being a little more efficient and be like, okay, this is full time, this is money I need, this is my best paying opportunity, maybe there are opportunities here. I'm putting my all into this, or I'm putting most of my energy into this. If I have a part-time or even a second full-time, whatever, I'm gonna put a good amount of energy into that. But anything extra on top of that, I need to give it the energy that it's worth, not just hustle and bustle everything. Because again, it's not necessarily the healthiest thing to do. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave this video off here, guys. I'm done ranting. I'm gonna do probably a good amount of ranting in this next batch of videos, to be honest. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave it here. If you have any feedback, if you want to, respond to the question, if you have any questions for me, just anything like that, go ahead and share that with me in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.